We're here at the Bronx Works Pyramid Community Center with NYCHA residents trying to get some answers. Residents came out from a variety of developments, including Bronx River Houses, Washington Avenue Murphy, Pink Houses, Claremont Franklin, Bronxdale, Throggs Neck, Wagner Projects, Farragut Houses, Morrisania Air Rights, Maxwell, Andrew Jackson, Johnson Houses, and Patterson Houses, and even more, all here trying to figure out what's really going on. Take a look at how we got to this point.
I put on my two little blankets, I have one little blanket, and then I have a big sleeping bag.
No hot water, there's no heat. I got 5 kids, it's ridiculous.
A rough winter for tens of thousands of rent-paying NYCHA residents who found themselves without heat and without help on some of the coldest days in decades. While residents tell us it's nothing new, it's also never been this bad.
They need to put up the heat. Get some oil, get it generated, do something. It's too cold.
As you see me now, I have on a sweater, thick long johns, and thick socks.
From Throggs Neck to Far Rockaway, one end of the city to the other, resident council leaders told us they were running high on complaints and low on results, a pattern all too familiar from the lead paint scandal and safety issues like crime, lighting, and security cameras.
The tickets are actually being closed out literally minutes, some even seconds after they're making them. 2, no one is coming to check on these residents.
Aging buildings, boilers breaking down, lack of staff, and lack of funding, despite the $3 billion a year budget, are the reasons we kept getting. Another frustration, no real timetable for repairs. So we put it to NYCHA Chair Shola Olatoye in a rare interview on a recent Street Soldiers episode.
When there is a system-wide, i.e. development-wide outage, and there are work orders associated with that outage, when service is restored, our staff go and take apartment temperatures, random apartment temperatures, to ensure that people have legal heat, and then the work tickets associated with that heating outage are closed.
Some elected officials want her to step down and accuse NYCHA management of incompetence, covering up problems, and not caring about residents, like 3-month-old baby Caden, whose mom says developed pneumonia from their frigid apartment.
To find out I overdressed him or underdressed him because it was freezing temperatures in the house, and winds up in the hospital with pneumonia.
There should be a declaration of emergency.
We need new leadership at public housing in the city of New York.
It's a state of emergency. It's life or death.
Joining me is straight off a plane from Dubai, the one and only Ja Rule, hip-hop superstar and actor. Also with us is GIANCARLO Fernandez. He's with the organization Community Voices Heard. And you may know our next guest, City Council Member Richie Torres from the 15th District here in the Bronx. And also with us is Dr. Elisa English. She's a clinical therapist who's been working in our communities for many years on a variety of mental health issues. Richie, I want to start with you on this. You are a prime example of somebody who grew up in public housing and is doing very, very well, but you have taken up the fight of people like your mother, who still lives in the Throggs Neck houses. Give us a sense of where we are. Has it always been this bad, or was this winter just one of those flukes, and like they said, the old equipment just didn't hold up and people didn't have heat or hot water for weeks?
You know, it's been bad for a long time, but it's getting worse. And I'll tell you, I'm the youngest member of the City Council, and I'm one of the youngest elected officials in the city of New York. I'm living my dream, and I would not be here but for public housing. So it's deeply personal to me. But the reality is the residents who are living in public housing are living a nightmare, right? And keep in mind that NYCHA houses 700,000 people, right? There are 500,000 people who live in public housing, 200,000 residents who depend on Section 8. It houses a population the size of Boston, right? NYCHA is the forgotten city within the tale of two cities that is New York City. And it's been savagely starved of funding at every level of government. It has $25 billion worth of unmet capital needs. So in order to bring public housing to a livable state, you would have to invest $25 billion. And so the state of public housing is demolition by neglect. Right? NYCHA, as we know it, is dying a slow death. But we can do more, and we can do better.
And we're going to talk about that. And I want to point out at this point that we did invite NYCHA. We've had them on the show in the past, representatives, and we've also had comments from them in the past. They declined to send a representative to this program to meet with residents directly, as all of you are, for this particular episode. Giancarlo, tell us what this winter has been like for you and your mother.
Yeah, I can tell you specifically that we've spent many weekends without heat. My mother has a condition that is definitely aggravated by being exposed to cold. We also have mold in our apartment. I've been to the emergency room with her many times. So the problems that we're discussing tonight are very real for me.
All right, Dr. Elisa English, what kind of effect does it have on people when they feel as if their voice is not heard?
It's demoralizing. It causes depression. It causes stress. The fact that people are dealing with not having their basic needs met. They feel like no one's listening to them. That's like moral injury. Like, I'm asking someone to help me and no one is helping me. We have a responsibility as a society to help those who are vulnerable.
All right, Ja Rule, as a hip-hop artist, as an actor, why do you feel it's so important for hip-hop to be involved in this particular issue? And thank you for taking time.
I mean, you know, speaking from a hip-hop standpoint, we come from this. You know, we come from the bottom. I was raised public housing. You know, my mom works 2-3 jobs to try to feed us, and you know, I'm really upset at the fact that we're even all here right now, talking about heat. Something so simple. I mean, it's a human right to have heat in your building that you live in. I mean, we talk about politics, right? We talk about the trickle-down effect. Well, I think we're seeing the trickle-down effect right now. The trickle-down effect is the person at the top has shown that for many, many years, we know this, we've all known this, but now he's saying it and showing it to us every day. The country does not care about black and brown people. They do not care about minorities. They do not respect us. And until we start showing them that our dollars are just as powerful as any other people's dollar, they're gonna keep disrespecting us and not giving us the respect we need. I mean, this is a simple human right. We're talking about heat.
All right, this is Street Soldiers Special Town Hall from the Bronx Works Pyramid Community Center. We'll be right back after this.
Lisa, I'm dead serious. I'm about to organize a march. We going down to NYCHA and let's let our voices be heard.
Why do you think we've become, as a society, desensitized to what's happening to our own brothers and sisters, our own fellow citizens, and our own neighbors who are going through these circumstances and paying for it?
We're not having these town hall meetings in Bergen County. We're having them here in the Bronx. We're having them in Queens, and we're having them in Brooklyn. We're having them in the hoods, in the ghettos, the poor sections of the country. We're not going to the rich neighborhoods. When I happen to live in a nice neighborhood, and the town hall meetings that they're having over there, they're about fixing the little road that got messed up, pothole during the winter time. And there's like 3 of them, and they're beefing because they're like, yo, I'm gonna mess up my Bentley. We ain't fighting for that over here. We fighting for heat. We fighting for real causes. People, I mean, I just really, it really bothers me to fathom that we are in 2018 and we have to have these type of meetings. We still are marching, you know, for things that should be basic human rights, things that should be given to every human being.
This is State Senator Jesse Hamilton. You introduced a bill about lead because it's very damaging to children, can cause brain damage, can cause lifelong consequences for them, and really totally change the trajectory of their life and their future. Tell us briefly about that.
Well, the new bill that we're introducing is making sure that every child in New York State get tested for lead before the age of 6. And part of the lead poisoning that's happening right now is happening by design, because NYCHA fired 52 paint inspectors for lead in public housing. So we're trying to do also to make sure we get kids tested. A lot of times you don't know you have it, And a young child, developmental, as far as their brain capacity, can be damaged, and we want to make sure that we get the word out, get tested for your child who live in public housing. And even if not in public housing, it's still an issue, because we're second highest to Flint, Michigan, as far as lead poisoning of children in New York City right now.
Ms. Monique Johnson, please stand up. She is the president of the Throggs Neck Resident Council. We got to know each other very well this month. I want to say that. Hopefully it'll be under good circumstances, but you've been going through it. You've been getting calls, we've been calling me, getting texts, and tell us about that.
So I was at the hearing when Shola lied. She lied then and she's still lying. And once I left the hearing, I took the information to my senator, Jeff Klein, and he agreed. We knocked on hundreds of apartments in Throggs Neck houses, and he has agreed to make sure that all of the kids in Throggs Neck houses are being tested. He partnered with a medical facility. He provided transportation to and from the clinic, and he's also branching out to other developments. But the interesting thing that we found out when we knocked on these apartments is that NYCHA did not tell any of the residents that their apartments tested positive. What they told them was that, oh, we want to test for lead. And after they did the testing, when the apartment tested positive, they said, oh, we're going to come back and we're going to paint your whole apartment. So now they're doing you a favor. They don't come to do repairs, but they're going to come and paint your apartment. So
that made you a little suspicious that all of a sudden you're getting a renovation there.
Yes, but I need more of the residents to rise up, stand up, and ask questions.
Giancarlo.
You know, this isn't just a question of receiving funding. No one knows what's going on in these apartments better than the residents. So when we're talking about receiving funding, we also need to have a resident oversight council that can actually review how this money is getting spent, that can actually make sure that the life-threatening conditions are taken care of.
Giancarlo, that was my question, is like, we hear millions here, billions there, these big numbers with a lot of commas and zeros, Richie, and does it really make a difference? Do we know if it's going to go to where people can benefit from it?
Look, money is not enough. You need the right management, right? We have to ensure, and then we have $200 million in boilers. Are we going to ensure that we're going to spend those dollars immediately so that the residents have the boilers by the next heating season? And then once those boilers are in place, is NYCHA going to maintain them in order to prevent them from breaking down? So I have my doubts.
All right, and say your first name and where you're from.
My name is Esther DeVore. I'm with Community Voices Heard. I am an active member in the community. I have been to all NYCHA's developments due to the fact I've been in participatory budgeting. I've went to some where they had meetings talking about the mold in the building. They was getting people that is not licensed from no unions. They gave out kits so they can test the mold in the apartment. They was going around to people with workers from NYCHA to paint the apartments, to cover it up. All they doing is dressing up the issue, and the issue is still there.
If Danielle looks familiar to you, she's the mother of baby Caden in the Patterson houses. At 2 months old, baby Caden was hospitalized in the NICU because he had pneumonia. And how is the baby doing, your son doing right now?
The baby is doing absolutely fine. Still going through, thank you. Still going through a couple of tests.
All right, well, we're going to continue to pray for baby Caden and for your other kids. And the heat did come back on.
The heat did come back on the next day after we had an interview.
All right, well, we're going to continue to pray for your family. Panel, let me ask you, Jaro, what do you think about that?
I want to say this because, you know, the government in our country, unfortunately, they only understand one thing, money. So you got to hit them in their pocket too. So I don't know, do we have any lawyers here? Because what I would say to do is everybody get these test kits, who's ever having these issues, get your test kits, test your apartments for lead, go to the doctor, see if you have any health issues from this lead, and start a class action lawsuit and sue you know what I'm saying, out of these people, because y'all shouldn't be going through this. I'm getting sued right now for like $100 million for something that's way less than what y'all are going through. Trust me, y'all should be absolutely putting your voices to work and hitting their pockets.
Richie, let me ask you about the Ja Rule's idea of a class action lawsuit. What do you say to that?
I agree. I mean, we had the Campaign for Fiscal Equity, where you had parents sue the state for defunding public education. The residents of public housing should sue the city, the state, and the federal government for disinvesting from public housing, because the government is the worst slumlord in the United States. And then one more thing.
Say that again, please.
I'm sorry?
You say it again? The government?
The government is the worst slumlord in the city, state, and federal government. And also, if you want to run the housing authority, you probably should live there so that you get a glimpse of the slum.
Yes! All right.
And I have a sense.
Kind of like if you run the MTA, you should take the subway or
I
the
think
bus,
so.
Right? What do you think, Ja Rule, about that idea? The chairman of the NYCHA should live in NYCHA. Whoa, okay.
I agree.
Michael Blake, stand up, please, and tell everybody, Assemblymember Michael Blake here from the Bronx, what can you offer to people as solutions or ways to move forward so we're not having the same town hall 6 months from now or next year?
Well, we know too often that when people live in public housing in particular zip codes, they don't get the respect that we deserve. And your block should not block your blessing. Your zip code should not deny your destiny. That's what we always say. So to Ja Rule and others, there is a group that is in the process of working on a class action suit right now. If you want to engage with individuals, Housing Rights Initiative, Aaron Carr, they've been doing incredible work. Engage with us. We're on the housing committee. This is our district. We've worked with many people in this room, Danny Barber and Cheney and so many others, and we're sick and tired of seeing this disrespect that happened in our communities. I went over to Caldwell, I went over to Eagle, and you see repeatedly boilers not being replaced, mold that's coming down, leak that repeatedly happening. But we know if we were in a different zip code, things would be different.
There's a double standard. So normally when you have a complaint relating to city services, you could call 311. 311 refuses to take complaints about public housing. You have to go through the centralized call center, which is controlled by NYCHA. And then if you want to
explain why that's significant, why they have to go through this separate number.
Because the system is controlled by NYCHA. There's no independent system for submitting complaints about conditions in public housing. Or if you want to know the conditions of an apartment, you go to HPD's website and look it up. That's not true of public housing. You cannot look up conditions in public housing on HPD's website. So there is a double standard, and then NYCHA has a pattern of closing complaints without actually solving them. And that's the problem.
Where's NYCHA's office building now?
250 Broadway.
We going down to NYCHA.
All right.
Well, Lisa, I'm dead serious. I'm about to organize a march. We going down to NYCHA, and let's let our voices be heard at NYCHA.
There we go. All right.
And and I'm gonna lend my time, and I'm gonna go with y'all, and I'm gonna lead it with y'all. We're gonna go down there. We're gonna let NYCHA know we got a few issues up here in the Bronx. That's for sure.
I'm looking at my boss right now. We're holding everybody to that. That'll be a great show on wheels. I want to bring up Project Heat. If you guys would mind coming all the way up here, because we're talking about a lot of problems. And we're talking about a lot of issues, but also there are a lot of people who have come from public housing who are doing amazing things. And if you're not hip to the Urban Web Series, guys, please come and stand behind the panel here too, because you've supported us. You helped get the word out. These are the members of Project Heat from the Pink Houses, in Brooklyn. Thank you, guys. And they came out to support. They came from Pink Houses here to support. Their example of when they don't give you what you need to do what you want to do, you go ahead and do it anyway, which is kind of the hip-hop spirit. Ja Rule, thank you so much, baby. GIANCARLO Fernandez, thank you so much. Thank you. Also Richie Torres, can't wait for that investigation. Dr. Elisa English, thank you so much. And also Project Heat, support them, making big moves, new platforms. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm Lisa Evers. I want to thank you very much for being part of this town hall. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. Let's push for peace.